What's going on YouTube? Welcome to today's video. As you saw by the title, we're going to get into a lot of my next training cycle, my next hypertrophy block, and this next training block is going to be my first one back from quarantine at home training. Before we get things started, before that, also what I'm going to go over first is exercise selection, because I think that's something that's going to be applicable for anyone training any kind of level of training, just understanding exercise selection, what you're looking for. That's going to help you have very productive training and gains. And then before that, we want to say hello. Yumi, the little chicken nugget, wants to say hello. The little furry potato, say hello to YouTube. Good girl. All right, so that is that. We're going to get into this video. So first, let's start out with exercise selection. So what are we looking with exercise selection? What are we looking for? So with exercise selection, some things to consider. I'm going to first start with what is exercises that you probably do not want to do. Exercise selection, you want to have a primary muscle in most cases. You want to have a target muscle for the exercise that you're doing. If you're going with bicep curls and you're using it as an anterior delt movement, there's probably better options. Unless you're really swinging it, but even so, you can probably hit a front raise or a dumbbell press a little bit better and get a lot more out of it than trying to do a bicep curl for shoulder development. So we'll go over first things you don't want to do for exercise selection. So not have the right target muscle that you're utilizing it for. It should feel, actually, I don't think these were put in the right order, but range of motion. You want to have a good range of motion. You want to be able to take it to the full extent of the range of motion, get a full stretch in the muscle, and get a full contraction. That's actually going to allow you to use less weight and get a greater return. And range of motion has been shown to be more effective than doing a 600-pound quarter squat versus doing a 200, 300-pound full deep squat. You're going to get a greater return by doing that longer range of motion exercise, getting that full stretch and contraction of the muscle. You're going to get more gains. You're going to get better. You're going to be taking the joint through this full range of motion. You're also going to bulletproof yourself for future injury, because you're fully trained at going the whole range of motion instead of just training the quarter squat. So then whenever you take it a little deep, it's awkward when you're outside of that trained range of motion. It's easier to go full range of motion and then go into shorter periods, shorter parts of that range of motion, than try to train a short range of motion and then try to expand it. Then you just don't have that stability. But in just terms of growth, full range of motion is going to be the best bang for your buck. Also, you're going to be able to reduce your fatigue because you're not having to train as heavy. Try holding 600, 700 pounds on your back and squat, it hurts your soul. But if you're just doing 200, 300 pounds, but you're taking it through the full range of motion, you're going to feel it probably better in the target muscle. But that second thing, which kind of plays into that, is feeling it in the target muscle. So I mentioned this in, I think, a recent video. If you're doing bicep curls and you're feeling a really big pump in your forearms, that's probably not going to be optimal for building your biceps with that curl. Switch that curl out or evaluate how you're doing it. You want to feel in that, again, that target muscle for that exercise. You want to feel a good amount of blood flow getting there. You want to feel the tension in that muscle. If you're doing lateral raises, but you're kind of doing it like this, and you're like, oh, well, my anterior delt's feeling really, really good doing them like this. But are you using this? Is it in your programming for building your middle delt? So then you would want to turn over and do pinkies up, lead with your elbow to really get a good pump in your middle delt. You want to feel that tension in that area. So if you're training, you're going to need a good pump in your quads for your exercise that you're focusing quads on, probably a good spot to be. And then the other two things, probably less extent. I think those two were the best. Well, actually, no, this one's important. Joint pain, minimal joint pain. So when I said that you want to feel in the target muscle, you want to feel a good pump, you want to feel good blood flow there. You don't want to feel achy knees or achy joints. With that, it could also be a rep range selection. So if you're doing sets of in that 5 to 10 range, we can still be in that hypertrophy range. It's going to be a little bit heavier. So usually the heavier exercises do affect the joints a little bit more. I can probably speak on this anecdotally, especially from powerlifting. When I was peaking for meets, doing my heavy 3s, 2s, 1s, that's when my elbows would get really beat up, my shoulders when squatting, my knees were a little bit more achy. But if you're doing sets of 15, 20, it's not really enough weight to really give too much joint pain, and if anything, it's just going to be more cardiovascularly taxing as the other limiter. So bringing this back around to joint pain being important for exercise selection, is you're not going to want to be doing, if you do an exercise on week 1 and you're feeling a lot of issues in your knees and you're planning to carry that training block for 15, 16 weeks with that exercise, it's probably a good idea to switch that out before things get to a bad point. If you're already feeling your joints kind of a little achy on week 1, imagine week 8, week 9, week 15. So I would say probably find something better, find something different where you're not feeling as achy, but there's also other things that you can bring into like knee sleeves, elbow sleeves, but those can sometimes just be a band-aid. I know for me, my knees sometimes get like act up on, most squatting movements, but I'm able to put some knee sleeves on and minimize the pain. And if it does flare up, then I know just to either go to a different exercise or deload at least on that exercise. And then also you want relatively some novelty with your exercise selections. You don't want to just barbell squat your whole year through, your whole, 52 weeks. You would probably want to switch things around. So what I like to do is I'll keep an exercise if I really like it in. I'll do 2 training blocks in a row of it, but I don't want to have it 3 training blocks in a row. For me, a whole training block is like 2 mesocycles. I like doing like 6 weeks each, and then a strength mesocycle, which will be maybe like 4 weeks. So in total, it's usually about, and there's a deload in there, so 6, 1, 5, 4, which quick math, 16 weeks. So I don't want to have the same exercise 48 weeks in a row if I did 3 blocks with it. So I would say you want to be switching things around. So you want to have a good library of exercises, that check these boxes. One, you have good range of motion there. You feel a good pump in the target area. And then also you have minimal joint pain. That's going to allow you to train for a long period of time, get some really good returns on these things, and then get huge. Something I will add there, and mistakes that I have made, is I've done some exercises, I guess you could say, back. I think back, I just never really looked into the physiology of the muscle or also really stressed the technique as much as I could have. I was like, my lat pull downs are pretty strong, but I think I was using more of my biceps for it, and I never really stressed the contraction or really put a lot of effort into doing a scapular retraction in my horizontal rows. And then that was kind of exposed when I did my bodybuilding competitions. So I know I need to be a little bit more methodical there and really feel it. Mind muscle connection is important. Some people maybe overvalue mind muscle connection, but there is a value to, you want the target muscle to be moving the weight, and that's going to ensure that that's going to be the area to grow. So again, you don't want your anterior delt moving your bicep curl. You want your bicep to. So if you're feeling a pump in your shoulder instead of your bicep when you're doing a bicep curl to grow your biceps, reevaluate your technique or switch out the curl type. I like incline curls and spider curls because it's really easy to take your shoulders out of it and really just focus on your bicep being the thing that moves the weight. But that's going to conclude pretty much the exercise selection part of this video, and I hope you guys got some value of it. I think I took a little bit more time than I thought, but I'll just go over my next training block very quickly, as quick as I really can. So this will probably go again into the deeper science. If you're into that, stay around. Hope you enjoyed this part of the video, but this was stuff that I was just really excited to make. It was me kind of just mentally thinking about getting to the gym was making me excited because things are opening up in New Jersey. So pretty much I made this death block, and I put in parentheses party, like a block party. Haha, dad joke, kinda. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. That was yesterday. So the way that I go over building my training block, again, I said I do 2 hypertrophy mesocycles. I do 6 weeks each, then a 4-week strength block. Between my 2 mesocycles of hypertrophy, I do have a deload in between. So it's actually 6 weeks the first hypertrophy mesocycle, 1 week deload, 5 weeks usually on that second mesocycle of hypertrophy, then goes into that 4-week strength block, which is technically 3 weeks with a deload at the end to get me ready for that next training block that comes. So I'll take you into how I go about organizing these. This is what it looks like. It looks pretty simple because I just do upper days. I do that 3 times a week. I do my lower days 3 times a week. So it makes things, quantifying it all, pretty easy for me. Some people that I look up to, again, I read a lot with Renaissance Periodization, love their resources. They have been doing shorter sessions but twice a day. That's something I want to experiment later, but it would be like these workouts have a lot of volume in them, so systemically you may get tired by the end of it. Think of like if you're playing basketball for 2 hours and then try to play football right after, you're gonna be toast for football and not too great. Think about like if you play basketball in the morning and then football at night, you're probably gonna be better during that football game. So kind of the same thing kind of plays into here, that systemic fatigue. And that's something I may want to try long term, but I probably just would separate like my arm stuff to like a later session, and then that would just make these kind of more of a manageable like earlier session, and then it's just, okay, beach muscles at night. I'm not against it, but I'm gonna go into how I actually make this. So when I'm making a training block, I like to just write down pretty much all the muscle groups, or the main muscle groups that I'm gonna be focusing on. And those, I just write them down. I usually do about 2 exercises per muscle group. Because in an upper day or a lower day, there's some main upper and lower muscles that I focus on, and I want 2 exercises each. So on an upper day, I do 2 chest exercises. I do, on lower day, 2 quad exercises, 2 glute exercises, 2 hamstring exercises, because my goal kind of sets per exercise session is that 8 to 12 range, which by James Krieger's research review, he was saying probably the 8 to 12 range is where you're gonna get the best return. And I start these training blocks in kind of that 6 amount. So kind of trying to be the majority of this whole training block in that kind of sweet spot, but then starting, I kind of am ramping up sets as I go throughout the mesocycle and then get through it. So I usually pick 2 per muscle. So 2 exercises for quads, because then I can do 3 sets and 3 sets. Then the next week's will be 3 sets and 4 sets. And then I'm at 7. Then it'll be 4 sets and 4 sets for each exercise. Then I'm at 8, which is kind of that sweet spot. 8.5 is probably the magic number, but you can probably individual variances. So 8 to 12 is a good spot to be in. And this is sets per session. This is not sets per week. This is sets per session. And James Krieger, when he made this, when he did that research review, it was really, really good if you want to read that. On weightology, he said that he was seeing the discrepancy between weekly sets. Like some people, like 30 sets per week was too much, and then for others, 30 sets per week was good in other kind of literature. And then the difference between those would be, oh, you're trying to do 30 sets with only 1 session of chest, so you're doing 30 sets in 1 session. That's a little overkill. But then the other one was 3 frequency, so 3 different chest sessions throughout the week, 10 sets each, and they got really good growth. So instead of blowing out your back or your bicep, blowing out your back, or your biceps or your chest in 1 session, you'd rather spread that out. So don't do 24 sets of bicep curls on Monday and then don't touch bicep curls for a whole week. Probably do 8 sets on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then you're probably gonna get better return. Also, when you stimulate muscle protein synthesis, you only get a bump in that for like 48 hours. So if you train chest on Monday, don't touch it for a week, you're missing out on 5 days of growth. That being said, the exercises that I chose for this training block, so quads, the 2 exercises gonna kill me, is hack squats, because I love those. We're gonna go really deep, full range of motion, because that is something very important, as we went over at the beginning of this video. Leg press as well. And leg press, I've been seeing it done by people with really big legs, super full range of motion. So that's going to be kind of my finisher. I may actually experiment in the higher rep ranges, more of that 15 to 20 there. So that's going to be, I want to say fun, but also I may vomit a couple times. So I'm kind of like scared, but in an exciting way, you know? So that's going to be, those are my main quad exercises. For glutes, the 2 exercises that I chose are going to be, I got them here, sumo squats. So that's going to be like a wide stance, trying to keep vertical shins. That should hit my glutes as well. And then I'm going to be also finishing off the workout lunges, trying to really focus the lunges, adjust my technique to make sure that I'm feeling the burn in my glutes as opposed to my quads. Lunges are one of those exercises where it could go kind of either way, so you adjust your technique as you go to make sure. But in most cases, you should be able to get that primarily on the glutes. So there's a little quad carryover, which may make my total sets for quads a little higher than you would think, because there's a portion in the lunges, but we're just going to play it, see how it goes. And then leg curls, which I'm very excited to get back to. That's probably the thing I've missed most while being outside of the gym. It's just the 2 leg curls that I have at the gym I go to. There's a seated curl, leg curl, and there is a prone leg curl. So curls on curls for that. Besides that, we'll go into the upper exercises. So I'm going to be doing bench press because I want to also be working on that, building strength. Have been doing that, so that's going to be it's going to be 2 training blocks in a row of barbell bench press. So that means next time I'll probably switch that into flies, or we'll see. I mean, there's a good fly machine there, so I'm excited at my gym. So chest, we have incline dumbbell, and we're going to do the bench press. For back, the back is one of the few muscles that I actually do 3 exercises per session. The reason being is because there's a lot going on with your back. You got your lats, you got your rhomboids, you got the mid back, there's a lot going on. So I don't really think that you can limit that to 2 exercises, because I think there's so many functions of your back. I mean, you can do this, you can do that, you can do that. So I would kind of like want to get a piece in every kind of range of motion or kind of plane of motion. So for my upper days, I'm going to be doing a chest supported row. So chest supported, I'm also going to be using extension rows, which are a pretty interesting one. It's where you really like round your back and you do a row and you really retract into it. So it will be hitting lower back to an extent, but also it's really going to hit those scapular retractors and gain that mid back, which is something I really want to work on as well. Probably also that lower trap to an extent. Also for the other back movements, just the lat pull down, miss those as well. And rounding it out for like my main 3 body parts for upper is going to be traps. And traps are going to be continuing bent upright rows. And then the rest of my training is pretty much just my arms variations and my middle delt. I do have calves and adductors during my lower sessions, just the usual. And I am throwing in, because my lunges were going to be on a superset on their own. And that's kind of over at the turf, and there is a cable set up right there. So for that lower day, I am going to add in some like straight arm pull downs for more lat work, because I mean, I have no sets going down for back on lower otherwise. It's my weak spot. It's going to be like 4 sets on those days, so it's not really taking me over that daily 8 to 12 sets. So as I progress throughout this, also I have biceps, triceps, and middle delts that are going to get work on every day. So arms every day, I like to do that. That's the kind of nuts and bolts or meat and potatoes of my training. And then also in terms of progressing throughout this is I'm going to start 3 sets per exercise at the start of the mesocycle of week 1. So that's going to be like 3 sets of hack squats, 3 sets of leg press. That'll be week 1. I'm also going to ramp my intensity as I go, starting out at 3 RIR, reps in reserve. So staying a little bit further from failure, but as long as you're within probably 4 reps from failure, you're going to get a pretty good return per set. So I'm focusing on that for that first week. And then as we go throughout, I'm going to add pretty much 1 set per session per muscle group. So for quads, this can be, I'll alternate. So leg press will get another set 1 week, and then hack squat the other week will get a new set. So then I'll slowly be working from 6 sets per week, 6 sets per session, up to 12 sets per session. But there's also going to be that deload in the middle, so that's probably where I'm going to be between them. If I'm feeling good, if my performance isn't going down, I'll add sets. If I'm feeling beat up, maybe even will auto-regulate deloads. Again, I didn't say this actually, but this is important, is if you're feeling beat up in the middle of your training, if you're feeling achy in the middle of your training, auto-regulate, listen to your body. Don't take a jump in sets. I've had to do this. Don't take a jump in sets if your knees are starting to get really achy. Probably don't jump your quad sets up that week. If your strength is actually not doing too well, probably don't up your volume that week as well. Maybe you want to take a deload before you thought you would need to. So this is supposed to be a 6-week mesocycle. If I'm feeling really beat up on week 4 or 5, maybe I'll take that a little bit early. So listen to your body. You can always plan things out, but you never know how they're going to go until you do it. So be smart with your training, take these things beforehand if you need to. But I want to share with you guys kind of the variables I play with my training. Grand variables is I'm escalating my total sets throughout the hypertrophy mesocycles. So working from 6 up to about 12 per session, which just seems like 8 to 12 is that kind of sweet spot again. High frequency, so my upper days I do 3 of those, lower days 3 of those, so I'm usually hitting about 3 times per week frequency. But my arms, quicker recovering muscles, I get a little bit higher with the frequency. And then with the strength block at the end, something I've learned, maybe doing a little bit more reading, I used to not bring down my sets too much. I would just kind of like bring the rep range outside of the hypertrophic 8 to 20-ish. I would just bring reps down, lift a little heavier. Probably moving forward, I'm gonna also decrease the total sets as well to really get down to that maintenance volume and really get the most return in terms of recovery and resensitization, which is the main goal for those strength phases. My primary goal is to get bigger, hypertrophy, so I wanna spend the most time either training hypertrophy or focusing and prioritizing resensitizing for hypertrophy. If you're a strength training, if you're a powerlifter, you're gonna be the flip side. You're just gonna wanna build muscle mass to train it for strength. You're gonna probably use hypertrophy phases just to resensitize for strength, but also just build more muscle so that it can be trained in strength, can be trained for strength. So I mean, that's pretty much my training block. That is my idea of going into it. Again, if you saw my previous video, right now I'm focusing on resensitizing, doing a quick mini cut, and then really setting myself up for probably another 4 to 8 months straight of bulking, get up to 230, 240. I'm about a little under 220 right now, but very excited for that. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, you're probably a nerd like me in terms of training, but I love this stuff. It's always fun to read. And again, Renaissance Periodization, I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but they, I think, have some of the best advanced knowledge there is to really just learn from. So a lot of these things, again, I'm more of an advanced person. I'm over 10 years of training, so getting these kinds of things, the escalating sets, increasing the intensity, keeping some more reps in reserve than maybe someone on year 1, you may not have to worry about these things as much. I talked about that sweet spot of 8 to 12 sets per session. Probably just being around the magic 8.5 range is probably going to give you some really good results until you get maybe more advanced 3 years in. But probably implementing some of these ideas into your training sooner than later can also make you cash in on some extra gains. But just want to share this with you guys, and I'm so excited to be back in the gym. And this thing, I'm so excited to run this plan. I think it's going to destroy me, and I'm looking forward to it. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely like the video, drop a comment down below, and then I'll see you guys in the next one. Keep it flexible. I'm out.